Hey guys, Ryan Biddulph here, blogging paradise with some friends, place for house sitting for a little bit in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I want to share what I'm fairly certain was my second experience with Sasquatch. This one was in the Pisgah National Forest off the Blue Ridge Parkway in a semi-remote area along a hiking trail. Very few hikers, very few joggers or runners, pretty much hardcore ones like myself. And you guys kind of know that I go to areas where, sometimes I've done 20, 22 miles. So this is pretty stout humans for the most part going here. So I noticed a few things before my fairly intense experience. Late August 2024. One day in that general vicinity, I appeared to hear wood knocks. A lot louder than a pileated woodpecker. And one thing I wanted to note too, there have been many sightings. There's one sighting a mile behind this house, I think in 2016, in a super high-end development, a gated community that most people in the Asheville area would know about, with 12,000 square foot homes and $11 million estates, mansions. And there was a couple down the road as well. So these encounters, these genuine experiences, from how the world would judge it, all occurred within 5 to 7, maybe at the most 10 miles of where I had my experience yesterday. So bear with me if these guys bark. So, heard the wood knocks. I saw an intricately created tree structure that had to have taken hours to put together, almost like a hunting blind or just a general shelter. About a 3/4 of a mile down the road from my encounter, by that tree structure, I observed a blue jay feather, gorgeous feather, jammed into a tree stump. Most narrow little gap. It was placed in there, jammed pretty tight, so the wind wasn't even blowing it back and forth. So I'm thinking of these things. I'm walking along the trail recently. There were no humans on it that day. So 45 minutes in, 45 minutes out. The first thing I noticed, which set off the red flags, was no sound. Not even the trill of insects that most of us hear. Lazy, hazy days of summer, late summer here in the Blue Ridge Mountains. So yesterday, when I had my encounter, it was 90 degrees and heat index of maybe 95. So no wind, not even a light breeze. So I'm going in, not hearing a thing, no squirrels for most of the hike. And I get to this point about a mile in where I hear what sounded like a bulldozer. On a hiking trail, you had the ridge line up to my north a little bit, and then down low, you had a ravine with a deep, deep canopy, a heavy canopy. So I could not see anything as far as movement. But that canopy was 150 yards down into the ravine. So all this was going on, a football field, or American football field, down south of me and maybe a little west. So it sounded like a bulldozer thrashing, just so incredibly loud. And I thought, okay, I've heard bear week prior here in the Asheville area. I saw them 4 days in a row. One was a pretty big boar, about 400 pounds, I would say at least, run off through the deep forest. I've heard and seen with the bear, of course, big white-tailed bucks charge through the forest. So I'm like, it sounded like a bull or an elephant or a human in a bulldozer. It just plowed through. It was so powerful. Then what I heard was a snapping or cracking of timber, either a tree or a massive branch, but it feels like it was a tree that was so loud that it sounded just like a gunshot. It went right through my being. So a gunshot type sound from 150 yards away, the diameter was large enough and the snap was violent enough that it created that sound and force. What else is doing that here? With that type of movement, together with the fact that there have been a lot of experiences, a lot of sightings right in this general vicinity. Intricate tree structure, that blue jay feather, sounded like wood knocks, and this is all happening right here. Very few humans around. This exact trail, I know I'll be giving away a little bit, but I just want to be clear, there's no mountain biking allowed on it. And over 4 hikes, I would say 6 to 7 hours, I only saw 6 to 8 humans on this trail, on this stretch of this trail. As you go farther north, that's really what happens, guys. Most people hike on this, not even on this trail as much because it's pretty hilly, but there's a number of really flat level hikes that allow mountain biking as well. Most people hike those areas because they're closer to Asheville, closer to development. The farther south you go on the Blue Ridge, people know this area, know it just gets more and more rural to really remote. And there's no development. There's homes not off of the Blue Ridge Parkway, but as you really move back into the neighborhoods and communities far down, from where the parkway edges through, but it's really, really borderline desolate in a lot of areas. And this is one of those stretches. So that type of sound, bulldozer, the snap, after that snapping sound, it sounded like a gunshot, this massive, massive creature. I waited for a couple seconds, didn't feel like a pang of terror or anything, but I just thought intuitively, what's it time to do? And it was that feeling of, not a voice or anything, but that feeling of it's time to turn around and go home now. So it felt like a threat display, not a scared, massive animal running away from me. The fact that it was 150 yards, 200 yards down, underneath the canopy, way down the ravine, and it made that type of sound suggests that the force created to snap a tree, and then just the bulldozing through all of these huge, huge trees and underbrush. And it was something not only gargantuan in size, but capable of generating a type of power that, I mentioned it before, like maybe a bull or something like an elephant, not a bear, not a deer. They sound big. Don't get me wrong. I've heard them. I've seen them moving through, but it's not like a human being in a bulldozer plowing through or some massive 1,000-pound animal. I'm not saying this guy was thousands of pounds, but 400, 500, 600 and strong as hell. So that's my experience, guys. I'm fairly certain, lining everything up right down to that gunshot type sound and the bulldozer. Those are the 2 things that really put me over the top, along with hearing wood knocks in the area. No sound whatsoever. And why I'm sharing these incidents, guys, so you don't just say, well, it was a coincidence. And of course you could say that, feel free. Is because a lot of other genuine people, honest people who've had genuine, authentic experiences like myself, they share these same characteristics of their encounters. So if you've had an experience in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Pisgah, North Carolina, West North Carolina, or anywhere, feel free to share in the comments below. Thanks so much, guys. Until next time, you know what to do. Enjoy paradise all.